Rolling out with the break of dawn. Canvas skies and the show goes on. Iron stakes and the hammer sound. Building dreams on this muddy ground. With sawdust running through our veins, we do it for the faces in the crowd. Step right up with R&B, 'cause this ain't just a show, it's circus history.
All right, cool. There we go. Howdy, everyone, and welcome to Off the Rail Podcast, your podcast for everything circus. We're your Off the Rail ringmasters. I'm R. This is B. How you doing, B?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Today's guest is Josh Vest. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Josh Vest. He is a clown, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Cool. We're excited to have you. I see
Absolutely.
you. So, how did you get into clowning?
So I grew up in Virginia, and I grew up going to see the circus, Avenue Circus. For years, this is like the late 90s, early 2000s, it was mostly just Ringling Brothers. So I grew up seeing Ringling Brothers every year in D.C. I would go twice, once in D.C. and then once in Fairfax, Virginia is where I saw it. And I was about 2 when my parents said I was like just fascinated by the clowns. And so I would go home and try to, do their little bits. For Halloween every year, I was a clown. I had all of the clown stuff they would sell at Ringling, all those little hat things that had the nose and the glasses.
Oh, nice.
And so I have quite a collection of those now. So it was Ringling for a long time, and then the Big Apple. My family and I discovered the Big Apple Circus, so we were like, let's go see this too. So it was something different because I was so used to seeing the arena shows, and getting to see it in a tent was awesome. And then so that was happening, and then Cirque started to come to DC, so I got to go see their shows, and then I've traveled to go see shows. The show I'm in now here in Myrtle Beach, I actually grew up seeing, and so it's really special to me to be in this show. But in Virginia, there's no circus school. There's no, clown classes or anything like that. So the closest thing I found to circus was acting. So I was really involved in my community theater, and did theater all throughout school. Later went to college in Virginia to study theater education, to be a theater teacher. And I was also studying performance. And I took a few clowning classes based on Commedia dell'arte, which is Italian comedy, Italian clowning. And so for years, I was juggling, if you will, between teaching and performing. And so, but like I said, from a young age, I would always be like, let's go see the circus, or let's watch a circus video. And, so that eventually I would go into a world of where I was like, oh, I want to try this, I want to try that as a clown. And we just went from there. And slowly but surely I started my career as a clown.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Is there any one clown that
How did you develop your
influenced you?
character?
I'll answer the inspirations, and then I'll go to the other one, if that's okay. So yeah, there's so many clowns that I grew up seeing and idolizing. Some of the ones that come to mind, it could go far back as watching Charlie Chaplin movies to seeing them in the ring themselves, like David Larible is someone I idolize. Mr. Bean, who I considered to be a clown. Let's see. There's so many. It's so hard to be like, oh, this clown, that clown, But like, there's a clown. His name is Hoosh Mahoosh. He is a clown that I've seen a few times perform. But, I really think all those, classic Ringling clowns, I would say each and every single one have inspired me in some way to go into clowning and to study it more and things like that. But I would say I don't have a single clown that I'm like, oh, that's the clown I want to be like. I really found that I loved all different styles of clowning, be it, your traditional white face clown to the Auguste clown. I think of myself more as a Auguste and a character clown. So, I love Emmett Kelly. He was the clown, that had the beard. He was Weary Willie, and so he just looked sad. I was like, that's really interesting. I love, that take on, you're supposed to be this funny, thing, but he's doing everything so something that you're like, oh, should I feel bad for him? But he's making me laugh. And so I just thought that was brilliant. And so he is one of my biggest inspirations. But overall, I've seen so many clowns from Ringling Brothers to Big Apple, Cirque, all these clowns that I've gotten to either work with or see growing up. All of them have, inspired me in some kind of way.
Oh, very cool. Is there oh wait, there was another question in there too you had to answer.
Yeah, I'll answer that. It was about, what was it, how I found my clown character, I think.
Yeah, how did you develop your clown character?
Sure. So my clown character has changed a lot. I used to, and depending on the show I'm with, my style of the look will change depending on what kind of show it is. If it's a circus show that's in a theater, like my current show, I tend to go and do more of a theatrical style. But if I'm in a tent show, I'll wear the big shoes, the nose, the makeup. Here in the current show I'm in, I wear very little makeup. I wear just basic stage makeup, so just some blush, foundation, and eyeliner. And that kind of just does the trick, and I allow the physical aspect of the clown come to life. But then again, it never really changes. The clown it's not based off my makeup, based off my costume. It's me. So it's still the same clown, just might be in a different uniform. But my style of clowning is based off of, I would say, if you could mix Mr. Bean and Charlie Chaplin and some other physical comedians as well, and those, I would say Chris Farley, but I'm not going to come in and break a table or anything like that.
You're not going to live in a van by the beach or by the river.
Exactly. Unless that's where the tent is, then of course, I'll live in a van by the beach. But so it's a mix of a lot of physical comedians. Those are the kind of the inspiration for my character. And so when I started doing circus, I was very much big baggy clothes, traditional, what you might call traditional clowning, here. And slowly I was like, I like that style, but I don't think it fits me. And I slowly start to realize that isn't the look I want to go for. I go for a very, I don't even know how to put it, but I don't wear the baggy clothes as much. I wear a lot of suits, a lot of tuxedos.
Okay.
Is kind of my general look. So I've kind of gone into
almost
that.
Like a jazzy.
Yeah. It's very, it's almost what you could say is, I guess you could say it's black tie almost. My tuxedos themselves are different colors. I don't have any in my dressing room right now. They're all preset for the show today. Cause I change so much in the show that it's all in the wings, for a show tonight. But, I wear like, a lot of red, a lot of blue, things like that, I think fit my clown persona. And then, my clown name is Mr. Jest. So my actual name is Josh Vest. And for years, I just went by Josh Vest the clown. There's our circus clown. Josh Vest is what they used to say for the show I was with for a long time. And my fiance was like, "Do you have a name?" And this is a while ago. She was like, I was like, "No, not really." And she goes, "Why don't you go by Jest?" And I was like, "Oh, like a jester?" And she goes, "No, your name is Josh Vest. Why don't you just use that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I like that." So the past 5 or so years, I've used that name, Mr. Jest. And it's kind of like a nod to when I was a theater teacher, I was Mr. Vest. And I often joke, I'm Mr. Vest Monday to Friday, and then any other time of the day, I'm Mr. Jest. And so it was morphing this, name. For a while, I thought, I have to be very, very like the proper, because I have the Mr. in front of my name. But later I was like, no, I don't need to do that. Half the time people just call me Jest when they meet me in the audience. They go, "Hey, Jest." Nice. Or sometimes they think I'm saying best. And I'm like, no, that's not it. But I'll take it. I'll take best, Mr. Best. Like, I'm sure. 100%. Yeah, you can say that all you want. And so with the name, it was really what formed my character. And going back to forming the overall character with a physical look, I have these glasses, and these are my prescription glasses. These are real.
I love those glasses.
A lot of people will come up to me. Even the other day, one of the ushers who I've been in this show for this is my second season here, came up to me and she was like, "Oh, that's funny," because I was scratching my eye. She goes, "Oh, that's funny. You're just scratching it through the lens." I was like, "No, these are real. These are my real glasses." And I was like, "I've known you for almost 2 years, and you thought I was just wearing like glasses, when we're not even doing the show without lenses, just hanging out." And she's like, "I never thought about it," but I was like, "Yeah, no, these are my prescription glasses." And up until about 2 years ago, I wouldn't wear prescription versions of these. I had other pairs that I had bought online or I had made. And again, my brilliant significant other was like, "Why don't you just get them with your prescription in it?" I was like, "You can't do that." And within 5 minutes, she found a website that does it. And I was like, "Oh, wow, there you go." And now I can see on stage for real. So I owe a lot of my, success and everything to her. Because she's the one that is like, "Why don't you wear this costume, or why don't you, wear these glasses?" And so that's kind of what's really helped is, once I had these glasses, is I know a lot of clowns that do have these glasses that wear them when they're not in their makeup, or other people that have had them. And I've only met 2 people since I started wearing these, and I've been wearing these for about 10 years, this style. That I've met in the audience that just have these glasses, that they're like, "Hey, nice glasses." And I'm always like, "Wait, you can just buy these? Where did you get them?" And one woman was like, "Oh, I got them at the Target eye doctor." I was like, "Really?" And so I think it's really interesting.
See, now I'm going to have to start looking because I wear glasses. So
there you go. I think everyone should have a pair of these because it's a double take. A few weeks ago, I was having dinner with some friends, and the waiter was just the entire time just going, like, couldn't quite figure out what it was, and then went, "You have a circle on one side and a square." And I always joke, I'm always like, "What happened? They were both squares when I left the house," or things like that.
Nice.
And but it's I think it's a unique thing. Is to have these glasses is it really is what brings my whole character together. Is that I have all these physical gags and these things I've learned over the years, but the one trait that I've had that has stayed the same throughout my entire clowning career are these style. That's wonderful. Yeah, no, I love these glasses, and it's always it's funny in the audience. I could be in an arena, I could be in a big theater, I could be in a small theater, and it still takes people a minute, but I can see them in the audience going, what? And you go, oh, okay. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now, before we get deeper in, I always ask every clown.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask you, you guys do the birthday pieing?
So I have been pied once on my birthday. In this particular show, no, we don't do it. But I know many clowns that swear by it. I know clowns that even if they're not, working or they're not performing that night and they're still go to have dinner with friends, they're still going to get pied somehow at this. It could be at the nicest restaurant in New York City. Someone's still going to figure out a way to get a pie in the face.
That would be amazing to see in like a nice restaurant.
Yeah, like in my head, I'm thinking, you're at like a Michelin star restaurant, and then your buddy just comes up to you and you're like, oh, nice. I'm in a suit, and this happened.
Oh, yeah.
But so this
Part
is
of the life.
Yeah, and over the years, I think this year, this is my 11th year of being in the circus, and my birthday is in September, and that's usually it's always been on either a travel day or a day off, or maybe I'm not working or something, So I have only been pied once when I was on the show on my birthday. Other than that, I've been safe in my home, not like looking around every corner, because when you go pie people, you have to learn the ultimate ways of sneaking around, trailers or dressing rooms. And so at home, I'm always like, no one's, it's just my significant other and my dog. I don't think anything is going to happen here. And I don't think she knows much about, that tradition, because I'm afraid to talk about it, because she would do it 100%. Knowing her, she would just,
wait until she sees this interview.
Yeah, I know that. Then she's gonna. She's back home in Virginia, so I won't see her on my birthday. But it could be a belated birthday thing from her. But she's gonna see and go, now I know. But yeah, no, I enjoy doing it. I think it's funny. I've never worked with a show. I know there are some people that don't like it. That weren't like, they're not from the Ringling world, or they're theatrical clowns, and so they're not used to it. But I've never met anyone that's like, "How dare you do this to me?" I'm like, they're always like, it's always like the moment of what just happened.
You got me.
And then they go, "Oh, okay, that's funny. That's funny." Yeah.
Awesome. You feel good too. It's like an honor.
Yeah. It's I would say one of the best awards one could get ever.
So I got a good question for you.
Sure.
What would be the fastest time in your oh no moment of going from full street clothes to full clown?
This actually happened the other day.
Oh boy.
So in my dressing room, I just moved into this new dressing room, and I don't have a speaker yet. I'm getting it today. I've only been in here 2 days. This is my third day in here, and they're putting in a speaker today before the show. Usually I keep my door open so I can hear the show, or hear one of my someone else down the hall that has a speaker. I can hear them through that. And I go out about 5 minutes before every show and do a pre-show. And I was just sitting in here. I think I was just scrolling on Facebook, deep diving into those Facebook food videos. And someone just walked by my room, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just watching this recipe. Like, come watch it with me." And they were like, "The show is about to start. You have like 3 minutes until your 5-minute call." And I was in like, a t-shirt and everything. And I had to, for this particular show, my first costume is rather easy. I come on stage and I'm dressed, I go through the audience. I'm dressed like an usher. So it's just a polo with our logo on it and black pants. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so it took me about 2 minutes, because this makeup is very easy compared to, I don't wear a ton. So it was just foundation, a little bit on the nose and my cheeks. and my lips, and I was ready to go. It was about 2 minutes. It took me 2 minutes to go. I felt like I was doing a quick change act. Probably a quick change act that took too long, but that's one that would happen recently. So I would say about 2 minutes. I've had other ones that have been close calls where, like, we're performing in a event center, and there's no actual backstage, and I've been, like, procrastinating putting my makeup on or something like that, and then they turn out the lights, and so there's only like little bulbs around the backstage where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize what time it is. I need to put my makeup on and do the whole white and everything in the dark. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's going to look like out there, but let's hope for the best. But here, this is the first time I've had it to where it's like, oh God, okay. So it was luckily my makeup is very easy. It's very, stage makeup-esque, with a bit more. So that I lucked out there. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Now I refuse to close the door. And because I had a speaker, but I guess it wasn't working. So I didn't have one that everyone else had. I had a different one. And I thought it was working. And no. But yeah, so I would say about 2.5 minutes with this style of makeup. And if I was doing the whole face like I usually do when I'm with a tent show, that might take a little longer.
Oh boy. So what, by the way, what is the circus you're with now?
I am with Le Grand Cirque Adrenaline 2.0. Last year it was called Adrenaline. This year it's Adrenaline 2.0. We have some of the best circus acts you can find. We have 2 AGT folks. We have Alan Silva, and we have Deadly Games, who Deadly Games is a knife throwing act and Alan is an aerial act. And we have the Espana family, which they have a long history with Ringling Brothers and circus in general. And they're now my dear friends, which is just amazing. So I work with them. We have a roller skating act. We have a hair hanger. And it's all here in South Carolina at a place where you're like, there wouldn't be a circus here, but there is here at the Broadway Theater. We have a circus show. So yeah, I've been here. I grew up seeing this show. Year after year, I dragged my family to see it, and they're like, "It's just why do we have to see this again?" I was like, "Let me have my moment. You all get to go to the beach and the pool. I want to go see a circus." So it's and when I joined the show last year, I was actually replacing the comedian I grew up seeing. So it was such a intimidating and exciting thing because he's very physical comedy. And I lean more towards physical comedy in the clowning sense. So even my look, like last year, I wore the big shoes, and I even brought them back this year at the start of the contract. But they had some wear and tear because I'd worn them, for years. And so I was like, maybe I'll just buy a pair of Converse for this year. So I changed that. But it's this show has meant so much to me, and when my family comes to see it, my mom, who actually lives here in South Carolina, is always like, when she comes to see the show, she always tells people, she's like, I've seen this show so many times. They're like, oh, are you like, do you have season tickets? She goes, no, my son used to make me come see it at least twice every vacation, once a year. So, I know the show very well. And now I'm like, well, but I'm in it now, Mom. So now you have to come see it, and you live about 25 minutes from the theater. You have to come see me in the show. And so, but, I'm very blessed to have very supportive family members and friends that love to come see me do circus and clowning. But yeah, this show, it's a great show. It's a wonderful group of people. And it's fun because these are people that, these are people on vacation. And, I often joke with, oh, you guys still on the beach, or you actually here in the theater? Sometimes you can't tell. But it's so much fun being in a show like this. Cause for years I only did touring tent shows. And so now to be in a stationary show where you're here for about a year at a time, it's nice because, you don't have to set up, tear down, where am I living this week? Do I get a nice view of the water, or am I staying in what was once a Circuit City parking lot? Things like that. So it's nice because I live about 15 minutes from the beach. I'm not much of a beach guy, which is funny because my whole family, they love the beach, but I've never been like yeah, let's go sit on the beach. And now that I'm here, it drives my brothers insane that I never go to the beach. Since I've been back, I think I've gone once, and it was only because I took a wrong turn and I was like, where am I going? And I ended up like right up on the beach, and I was like, this is not where I was trying to go tonight. But here I am at the beach, and my brothers were like, if I lived there, I'd go to the beach all the time. And go, yeah. But I don't really like it. I'm very much someone who doesn't even like the heat. I love cold weather. So being here at the beach is like constantly. It's like, this is too hot. I need to go inside to the AC.
See, that's me. I'm not a beach goer. If I'm at the beach, it's only because I got a metal detector in my hand.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. Other than that, nope.
I live on the beach, and I rarely go to the beach, and it drives my wife crazy.
Yeah, I'm just so, sometimes
we're a lot alike.
This is the beach. Like, I'll meet people and I go, oh, we went to the beach today, and I go, oh, that's nice. I don't go to the beach. I don't have a beach chair. I don't, I might have a beach towel somewhere, but it's not for the beach.
So I got a good question for you, sir.
Sure.
Where do you see clowning going in the next few years in 2025?
That's a great question. Clowning has changed so much over the years. Even so
usually
much
about every 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, we'll see a different style kind of come about. So, I think it's a shame we don't see as many of like the traditional, I don't even know what to call it traditional.
Well, how far back traditional?
I'm talking like if you look
like
back
1920s.
Yeah, like that style. And then if you're also looking at more the contemporary Ringling Brothers, not the new version, but the ones that was like, the 80s, 90s. Even 80s and 90s was so different between the early 2000s, the look. They kind of, like what I did, they stepped back from a lot of the baggy clothes. You'd see them in a lot more, neutral colors, just, with lots of color, but it wasn't like, whoa, look at that. And there are so many clowns that still do that. And I love it when I get to see a show and I see someone in like the baggy style. It feels like a circus to me when I see a clown like that.
For me, for the transition from the 80s to the 2000s with the mouths, I think it was for...
Yeah. Even the makeup has kind of taken a back seat for a lot of the clowns. I think, in a world that's with so much technology and everything, I think clowning is still as strong as ever because, the job of a clown is you can make anybody laugh at any given time. Most of the time, even without talking, you don't say much, and it's a universal language, physical comedy. So I think we'll see more perhaps of that kind of style of more physical than banter of clowns. But I think clowning in the next year, I would see it. It's going into its contemporary. Super contemporary era is what I like to think of it. So, we may not see as many traditional clowns with the nose, the big shoes, but they're still clowns, like I said earlier, I've changed my look over the years, but deep down, I'm still a clown. I still like here at the show. I may not, look like one, but I always say, yeah, no, I'm the clown in the show. And usually they go, well, yeah, I can tell by the glasses. So
I've seen lately there's a lot more street performers actually with clown makeup on.
Yeah.
Going back towards that 90s style.
It reminds me of a lot of like early cirque style clowning, and those two other inspirations of mine, David Shiner and Bill Irwin, who are two of the greatest physical comedian clowns in the world. They very much have kept that alive to where, I can be a clown without, wearing all this stuff, but I'm still a clown. And I have seen a lot of street performers wearing like the nose and the white around the mouth or the eyes. And it's the shoes, of course. And it's so refreshing to see it still. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's something that's, a lot of people are like, circuses aren't as popular. I just don't think a circus comes to your specific town. Circuses are all over the place. And so I think that, the style of clowning, be it traditional, contemporary, whatever is in the middle, it's still there. And I think it's going to grow. I know for a while, a lot of people were like, the whole scary clown thing was going on, and movies that have scary clowns in it. And I get asked a lot to do private events for companies where they're like, actually, we're doing a haunted house. Can you come as a clown? And I'm always like, I don't really do that. I've never done that. And it wasn't until this year, my significant other had mentioned to me, she goes, hey, this theater company that she had worked for, someone is hosting a private party and they wanted you to go. And I was like, I don't really do parties. I don't really do that anymore. I did it when I was growing up. And we were at my father's house talking about it just openly. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And it was for one of the managers of the football team, the Washington Commanders. And my dad is a diehard fan. And he looked at me and said, Josh, you have to go. And I was like, I don't watch football. I don't know anything about it. I don't know who these people are. And I ended up doing it because I was like, this could be a challenge, because there are a lot of horror circuses happening now, which I think is a really unique thing.
Yeah, Cirque has one of them.
Cirque has one. There's a great show called Vampire Circus that tours. There's so many, and I was like, maybe eventually if I went into a show like that, I would have some knowledge of how it works. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so I had a old costume that already had rips all over it, that I was like, no, I'll fix it. I'll just keep it. I'll fix it. And my significant other was like, it just sits in the closet. Like, why do you? And I was like, no, I'll just keep it. I'll fix it one day. And finally I was like, well, now I have a reason to wear it. It's all torn up and it's old. It's lost its color and, things like that. And so I did that kind of clowning once, and it was kind of fun. I kind of just had to walk around the event, and I would do a few little gags, but like it was just very different. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But to kind of go back and answer, what clowning will be in 2025, I think it's almost time, like you said, every like 10 or 15 years, we see a new style of clowning. I think we're almost to that point again, to where we're going to see a unique take on clowning, and we will continue to grow and be with the times. I don't know, of like how clowning goes, and I think that's going to be great. I won't be changing much of my style over the next 2 years.
I think the clowning is in a rebirth stage, so I think it's interesting to follow it right now. So that's why I agree.
I agree. Because there's so many shows that vary in their style of clowning. We're very lucky to see that happening. And hear, how this clown does it or how that clown does it. And so it's really giving clowns a new life. It's like, oh, you can do this. You can look like that. You can perform like this style, or, even how you carry yourself. And so I think we're seeing more of that. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a new take on clowning that people are like, is that a clown? I don't really know. But clowning has always been popular. It's always going to be popular, at least in my opinion. It's kind of like, you have magicians. And I've noticed, throughout my lifetime, I've seen where there's wow, everyone's into magic now, and then it goes away. And now I think with TikTok and all those things,
every 10 years.
there's always like, especially right now, I'm seeing more and more like magic videos pop up, and people are like, oh, I loved magic growing up. I think it's really cool. And I have a buddy of mine. He's like, I love it so much. I loved, my first magic kit. And then next time I saw him, he was like, yeah, I went out and I bought a bunch of professional magic stuff, and I kind of like it. I kind of want to go into this. That's like a side job. And I was like, it's the same thing with clowning is, people now kind of associate clowning with a scary clowning, and then they go see a show and they're like, oh, I guess not all clowns have to be scary. So I think we're kind of in the middle of that and adapting to how people look at clowns in a way. And I think that's where we'll continue to go.
Right. You talked earlier about silent clowns.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Bean and
yeah.
Like Buster Keaton, guys like that, there's these videos I watch. I don't know if they're TikTok shorts or whatever, but these guys that I think they're at Waterworld. I think they're mimes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those guys are hilarious.
Tommy the mime.
Oh yeah,
would you ever do anything like that?
It's so funny. A buddy of mine actually posted the other day. They were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna become a mime over there," and I was like, "Oh wow, that's really cool." And then I was like, that would be such a fun job because it's like a 25-minute set of you kind of just roaming, before a show and getting to goof around. And I love that they still look like a traditional mime.
Right. Yeah.
They have the white makeup. They're in the black and white shirt and the gloves. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, and the suspenders, yep. Exactly. Yeah. And so it makes me think, oh, well, I missed that. So the show I'm in now, last year, I was a mime. I didn't talk much. And I've gone back and forth between that a few times, depending on the show. Sometimes I'll wear a microphone and just kind of make noise, like sounds. I call it my own sound effects. More because that way I don't have to sit in front of a computer and create sound effects. I can just do it myself in real time.
There you go, yeah.
And that's a trend that's been around for a long time. A lot of clowns will do that, or they create their own language by doing that. And I miss miming, and I still do it quite a lot in this show, but I do talk. And it's always funny when you're doing a show you could be in anywhere in the world and you can still relate to those audience members because you're not talking. Like I said earlier, it's a universal language, physical performance. And that's what makes it fun. But then when they meet me after the show, they're like, oh, you do talk. That's not what I thought your voice would sound like when I met you. I was like, hey, this is my voice. I don't know what you expected it to sound like. Sometimes I like to just talk to people after the show, and I'll just talk like this. I'll talk really like a radio man, and go, yeah, this is my voice. And they go, really? No, it's not. No. But I love those mimes over at SeaWorld. I think it's awesome. It's hilarious.
The bigger guy, the bald, bigger
Tom.
guy.
Tom.
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah. I laugh my butt off watching him.
Oh, I love watching. Sometimes I'll watch it and be like, oh, that'd be a good routine. But then again, how do you get away with that? I was taught never to be afraid to do something as long as it's not going to injure someone or,
sure.
You don't want to embarrass them too much. Maybe just a little bit.
Oh yeah. Sure.
As long as they can take a joke. And that's my fear of watching those videos is oh, do they ever just somebody gets upset with them?
Oh yeah. Get the wrong person.
Right. And it happens. It happens all the time. I've had kids and adults alike come up on stage and do a routine with me and they're fine. I've only had one person walk off while I was working. If I had this band act that I used to do and I'd bring a bunch of people on and we were in this big arena in, West Virginia, and I brought this guy up. He volunteered. He had his hand up, came up on stage, and then I had to show them each individually what they were doing. And I went to him, and I did his thing, and it was a lot of hips and shaking and things like that. And then I turned to go do the routine with the other person, and through the corner of my eye, I just see this guy just walking off stage, and I was like, "Oh, what now?" And I remember it was a moment of panic. I looked off stage into the wings to where our stage manager was, and I was like, I don't. He just goes, go, just keep going, go find someone. And so I had to go find another person. So, and it happens. But like, with the mimes over there, I feel like people are more willing to, be the butt of the joke because they're mimes, and it's fun.
Oh, and they know when they walk by.
Oh, yeah. Like if you're walking literally right past me, that's total, free range to just mess around with you. Like, if you want to come up to me and take a picture, that you're giving me full access to, like, make this a bit.
So when you're not clowning, you teach theater, right?
I used to do both.
Okay.
I used to do that. So I used to, I would teach and then I would clown. Like there were times where I would be teaching at a school, and then on Fridays I'd leave school, sometimes get on a plane, sometimes drive to a show, do a show Saturday, 3 on Sunday, get on a plane or drive back Sunday night, go back into the classroom Monday morning. So I was always on the go. I didn't have much.
Much?
Yeah. So I'd be like, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to learn about Shakespeare. But we can't read Shakespeare because it's just, it's too quiet, or, I'll be like nodding off. And so, so that happened a long time. And then now I'll go teach like acting workshops, or I'll do like, some online coaching, and then focus more, and so I'm performing full time, but I still get to scratch that itch of being a teacher because I did go to college for theater education, and so I taught for a while still doing gigs. And when I first started doing the circus, it was very much I was working for a company in Virginia that would send me to Maryland, DC, anywhere in that area, and Virginia to do fairs and festivals as a strolling performer. So that's kind of like where I got my start, was strolling. I'd be kind of just there doing like little gags. And then from there later, I was like, I'm going to I was lucky to meet people that own circuses. And so I kind of did that for a while. And then now I then would transition into doing tent shows. And now I do more theatrical shows, but I still do a lot of tent shows. I'm very lucky to be able to go in a tent. There's nothing like seeing a circus in a tent.
Oh yeah,
it's intimate. It's fun. And then like I did a show. We would tour between a tent and arenas, and so it was always you had to relearn everything. Being in a big arena when you're kind of like, wow, this is huge. Can they even
timing's off
up there? Yeah. Like I feel like there's a delay in time when I like if I'm doing a music act and I say clap, and then 2 seconds later, then it's boom, boom, and I'm like, is there a barrier between us? Are we in two different time zones? Let's work with me here. But yeah.
You have, or what is a good, maybe funny or emotional fan interaction that you may have had?
So I have, for me as a fan, or meeting someone after a show?
For the fans meeting you.
Okay. So it's always heartwarming when I meet people and they're like, I want to be a clown. And I think it's just so great that, you're out here doing this, and it's really inspiring, and I hope one day to do it. I love those stories. I love meeting people like that. I think one of the funniest stories I ever had is I was on tour with a show, and I went to a Walmart after the show, and I had taken all my makeup off. I was in my regular clothes, and I'm walking around Walmart with my shopping cart, and I see these people, and they're kind of just eyeballing me. Exactly. So, when you're being eyeballed at Walmart, it could be anyone, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
They could just be staring just because. And I did have my glasses on, and so this group of people were kind of just like staring. And I'm kind of like, this is weird Walmart. Then again, it was like, 10 o'clock at night, 10:30. So like, again, it's Walmart.
Right.
So I'm just walking around, and they finally they didn't follow me, but I was in one aisle, they were in the next, and then finally one of them goes, "Are you the guy?" And I was like, I don't know. That's kind of scary. What
Yeah,
that's a little weird.
It depends. What kind of guy are you talking about?
You have the stuff.
Exactly. And they're like, "Weren't you just in that show?" And I was like, "Oh, the big tent show, the circus. Yes, that's me." And they went, "That's so cool. Can we get a picture?" And I was like, "In front of the deli meat at Walmart?" Sure.
So, hey, why not?
So, I've had interactions like that, or I've been walking to my car after a show and people will be like, "Oh my God, can we get a picture with you? Or can we come say hi?" They'll just start a conversation, and it's just like, this is weird that we're doing this in a very, poorly lit parking lot, and we're kind of just chit-chatting with strangers. But I love it. It means so much to me that people take time out of their day and will talk to me after a show, even if I'm not in my clown attire. They're taking time out of their day to go see a show, and then if they wait for a while to meet some of the performers after a show, it's just such a nice thing, because I was that guy. I remember the first time I met some of my favorite clowns. I was kind of like, "Hi, I'm a fan." And, it's just awkward. And I'm like, and then I'll get to work with them years later, and I'll be like, "Yeah." They're like, "Have we ever met?" And I go, No. I know your work, but no, we've never met. But I, have pictures of me and them together from 15 years ago, but I'm just keeping those secret because, I don't want to be like, "Yeah, I met you and I had a total fanboy moment," where it was just a lot of heavy breathing and just going, "Hi," So, but I love meeting people after the show. It's and I'm an introvert, super introverted person. But when I'm doing shows, I'm very extroverted. It always makes my brothers laugh. So I'm a triplet, and we all do very different things.
Wow.
One of them is a pastor, one of them is an elementary school teacher, and I'm a clown. And so they'll come see me in shows, and they're always like, "Who is that person? I've never seen you so energetic." It's like, well,
here's what's cool though. All three of you break good things for the world. So
absolutely. We're very, we're all in the people business. So, I'm very proud of my brothers, and, they're doing great things. And, it's always fun when I'm touring near home or doing a show near home. They're always they'll bring their friends and everything, or they'll say, "Hey, I have some friends coming to the beach. Can they come see the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Here's the website. Here's where you buy tickets." And they're like, "Oh, you can't hook us up?" I'm like, "No. If I know them, sure, but if I've never met them before, I'm not gonna be like, 'Hey, hi, my brother. Here's your tickets.'" But I'm always like, "No, I'll say hi to them. Let me know their names and all that." But I'm very lucky to have two supportive brothers, and they love to joke "Oh yeah, we got the pastor, the teacher, and the clown," and it's always just it's their icebreaker for a lot of things.
The three you walk into a bar, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's just funny, to when my brothers tell me "Oh, I had to go to this meeting today and we had to do an icebreaker," and my icebreaker was, "My brother is a circus clown," and everyone's kind of like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, here's a picture of him. Here he is. This is my brother. That's what he does for a living." But I'm very lucky to have met so many wonderful people. But I think the most unique one was the Walmart interaction, where they were kind of just staring, and I was just like, "Hey, why are you staring at me?" But it's fun. It was funny in the end. It was really funny.
Have you? All right. Here's a good one.
Okay.
You're talking about that guy that walked off. Have you ever had any other moments that you had to improvise on the spot because it went off script?
Oh yeah, all the time.
It's a clown's job.
As having worked with so many clowns over the years, you could have a bit, and this is how it's supposed to go: A, B, C. You hope it goes that way, but in the back of your head, you know it's not going to go exactly like that. You have to be ready for anything. So, I do an act called the teeter board, which is it's a breaking teeter board. You get someone on a stool, they jump, and it snaps. And last night it happened. I had a kid who was like, I want to do it. And once I said to her, I was like, okay, you're going to learn how to do a backflip. And she goes to stand on one end, and she's just like shaking her head. No. And I was like, uh-oh. And I had already done all my jokes, because I talked during that act. And so she looked at me with like big eyes, and I could tell she was starting to get uncomfortable. But then again, like why I picked this kid is because she was cheering and laughing throughout the whole show, not just for my acts, but for everybody. And so I was like, okay, all right, we'll get you back to your seat. And I picked this other kid up who was just full of energy, and which I love that. But sometimes it's a little scary. It's like, oh, you're going to like, what are you going to do? I don't know what you're going to do. And I had already gone through all of my like written jokes. And so I looked at the audience. I was like, I'm not going to tell any jokes. We're just going to do a flip. And so it worked, but you have to be prepared, because, there have been times where I've been in shows where I was in a tent show, and one day one of the generators stopped working midway through the introduction for another act. And so they send in the clowns. And so me and the other clown went out, and we kind of just walked around with flashlights, being like, hey guys, what's up? Just messing around. And so you have to be ready, because you never know how it's going to go. Like, yesterday we had a good show, and it's like, every show is a great show, but it's always keeping in mind what could happen during this act, and you just have to be ready for it,
Right on. Nice. So you've traveled all over the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
All right. What would be the difference between, say, where you're at now, Myrtle Beach, and DC crowds? Like, what would you do different? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what was you mentally going in? So mentally, I know here, these are people that are on vacation. They're here to have a good time. They're here to relax. Hopefully, whenever you go see a show, you're there to have a good time and enjoy the show. But I've done shows in DC, and so it's always fun to where, like, you go in and they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so is here. This politician or this person in government is here to see the show with their family. And so, here we don't really hear about stuff like that. I was talking to a cast member yesterday, and we were talking about how a few years ago in the show, WWE wrestler was here. I don't remember who it was, but they were like, yeah, they're here. And I was like, wow, I'm not used to performing for, wrestlers. I've performed for politicians. And so I think it's more of like the tone kind of changes, because either way, your goal is to make them happy and have a good time. But I would say here it's very relaxed compared to in DC. It's always kind of like, okay, that was the joke, ta-da, but it's just very different people and their vibes. So that's probably the biggest thing, is mentally going in and being like, okay, so I'm doing this kind of show tonight. These are the routines I'm doing. And even from like, show to show, I could be doing an act that I've been doing for 5 or 6 years, and it's always worked for this specific group of people. And then I go do it in a different venue or the different show, and it doesn't always translate. It's like, oh, it's okay, so I got to change this in a way to make it work for this town or this particular show that I'm working with right now.
Have you got to perform for many celebrities?
Not that I know of. I'm sure they've been there. Because I've performed, in DC for big events, private events. And usually if it's a private event, you can, like I remember one night someone was like, oh yeah, I did a show last night, and like Dave Chappelle was there.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, anybody here tonight? And they're like, no. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. So, politicians, yes. other, like just being at other events, I know there have been people, but I don't have any, like, I'm not one of those people that can say, yeah, I performed for Taylor Swift. She came to see my show and it just so happened, so that's nothing to be like, yeah, I performed for them. I think they laughed. Or I'll be like, yeah, I made so-and-so laugh. I wish I could say that. Maybe one day I'll do a show in LA or something, and, there'll just be people with their families.
Oh, that's like Ringling. We'd hear it all the time. Oh yeah, celebrities at the show. But I was train crew, so I'm like, great. I'd never get to see them.
Yeah, that's cool that they're there. I'm here. Yeah. Like I know people that, have done shows that tour throughout like California or like the Big Apple in New York. They get tons of celebrities, but it's very like, so-and-so is here. But then you're like, okay, where? And going, I don't know. Okay, they're in the room. They're in the room with us somewhere, but I don't know where. So, yeah.
In the general area.
Yeah. They're in the confines of the tent. Somewhere in this tent, they're here. Yeah.
Right on. So I got one more good question for you.
Sure.
Is there much difference between you every day and your clown character?
So yes and no. My clown is very awkward because I am a very awkward person. And so I kind of like let those guards down and just, become as awkward as possible. Like my whole shtick for this particular show is like, I'm here to kind of just, fill in for someone, or like, I've done that for a while where my whole clown character is like, the person's supposed to be here, but they're not here. So they asked me to do it. But, with my personality being very awkward, I'm a very quiet and shy person, I like to think, when I'm meeting new people. And then when I get to know them, like if you ask the cast, I'd be like, you are the loudest person I've ever met in my life.
That's how most introverts are.
Yeah. And so, but I'm like, once I get to know you, you're like my family. I'm like, oh my God, I see you 6 days a week. I'm not going to not, talk to you and goof around with you. And so it's that the biggest thing is me being very open and being like, goofing around. And then at home, we're like, when I'm anywhere else, I'm kind of just like, very, very straight face, just kind of like, hi, how are you? So that's probably the biggest thing. But, there are, because your clown is you, and that's something I've learned over the years. The teachers I had when I was studying clowning were always talking about, the clown is like you. You're not like finding this whole new persona. It has to be something true to you. So the awkwardness, the sarcasm is very much me, just on an extended level.
You've heard a lot of clowns say something very similar.
Yeah, it's very much, it's you, and you have to kind of like, accept like, this is who I am, so this is who I'm going to be, but I'm going to change it slightly to make it more, I don't want to say appealing, but I guess that's kind of what it is. It's or more relatable to a general audience than me being just an introverted, awkward guy. I have to make it into a routine.
I have a kind of a two-part question for you.
Sure.
One is, what was your favorite place to perform? And the other one is there any place you haven't been to that you'd like to perform?
Ooh, that's a great question. My favorite place I've ever performed, I loved Asheville, North Carolina. I did a show there, and I really, really liked it. It was a cute little, town. It was fun. The whole vibes of that little city were just, it was fun to be in. So I think Asheville, North Carolina has been my favorite. There are others that I love. Like I love when I get to go do a show in Virginia or DC because it's home. And so it's nice, getting to perform for people that, I'm like, yeah, I'm actually from here. That's always fun. And a place I would love to perform. I really, really want to, I've done one thing in New York. I've done a few tours that have gone through New York, but I've never performed in the city in a show, and I'd love to do that, something like that, like New York. It could be Chicago, but places like that. I'd love to get the chance to go and do. Those
are fun towns.
Oh yeah, I love to go visit those towns, and I've visited friends that are in circuses that are there, and I'm always like, how'd you get this gig? Who do you know? But I grew up very much a theater and circus person, so going to New York City and being like, I know for a while, like Big Apple goes there. There are other circuses that go there, and every circus I've been with that goes to New York, we never play in the city. It's always in Brooklyn or Queens or Long Island, something like that. I've performed there, but never in the city, like
around like Manhattan or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably a big dream of mine, is to do that.
Right on.
Or Europe. Europe is a pretty cool place.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah.
Very, very big in the circus world is European circuses. And then if I wanted to perform for all the circus people, I would go to Florida, but I'd be a little intimidated to do a show in Florida, because like in Sarasota, because that's where like every circus person I know, that's where they're at.
Yeah.
It's Sarasota, Florida. So, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, Europe, I definitely would love that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, B, you have any more questions?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
All right. Well, we're running out of time, but before we do, I do have one more question. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to do this, wants to run away with the circus or something like that?
I love this question. If I would say, as a clown, learn every skill possible. I'm not ashamed to say this, but I'm a clown who's just now learning how to juggle, but I know. I'm juggling anything from magic to some, physical comedy, how to pratfall, how to do a flip, how to, how to interact with an audience. Be open to learning any circus skill in addition to clowning. While that is your main thing, you want to go be a clown, I would say also spend some time learning different acts in the circus. Like, it's always fun because then you can turn it into a comedy routine. But, and advice, just, I would say learn as much as you can. And also just, be open to anything, because that's how the circus is. Like, when I first joined the circus, I didn't know that, I have to help put up the tent. Okay. So I learned how to do that, but it's always a gift to people when they're like, oh yeah, I'm an aerialist, but I learned how to clown, or I learned how to do this, learn how to do that. And I think it's such a gift that, circus people share. Is like, okay, you want to learn how to do this? I'll teach you how to do this. But and something I did is I just, as cheesy as it sounds, I just dreamed of doing it, and I worked hard to get where I was, and I kept going and going and going. And it's just, you have to keep working on your craft. I've been doing circus for almost all my adult life, and I'm still learning. Like, I'm learning how to juggle from one of my friends here at the show. I know how to juggle scarves, but I can't juggle anything else.
It's never too late.
And now he's teaching me how to do that, because my clowning has never, been in that kind of style where I've had to do that in a show. It's been very much a gag is kind of what I do. I do the bits. And so, but I love learning it, and, just make sure you're having fun doing it. You like, this is so cheesy. I'm living my best life. Like, I love this. I have a very supportive, significant other, my family, my friends, they are very supportive. And so it just means so much to me that, I know that I love doing what I'm doing, because it's not work. I'm not going to work. I'm going to have fun. And that's, So I would say
Okay.
always have that mindset too. If you're dreaming of doing this, is just go in and just, keep that passion, and that passion will stay alive. It always does, because it's, you could be doing the 10th show of the week, but you're still having so much fun, but overall my advice, is learn any craft, learn all the crafts.
Keep the grind going.
Exactly. And be open to learning and open to challenges.
Right on. And you heard it there, folks. With that said, we are running out of time. So I'd like to thank our listeners. And I would definitely like to thank our guest, Josh Vest, a.k.a. Mr. Jest. Before we close this, tell everybody where they can come see you and how to go about getting tickets.
Sure. So I am at the Broadway Theater in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Our show runs through October. They can go to the BroadwayTheaterMB.com to get their tickets, and they can follow me on social media at Mr. Jest Clowning on Instagram.
All right, there. You heard it, folks. So with that said, have a good one, folks. And until next time, we'll see you down the road.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.